Mega Man X Collection, released in 2006 for PlayStation 2 and also Nintendo GameCube, was the thing that prompted me to finally get a PS2 in 2007. All that along with the Street Fighter Alpha anthology and maybe whatever the latest SmackDown game was at the time. But yeah, a collection of the first 6 Mega Man X games that originally graced the Super Nintendo and Sony PlayStation consoles, along with a bonus game tossed in for good measure for a cool $30. That's an instant buy as far as I was concerned. But yes, Mega Man X Collection comprises the first 6 Mega Man X video games, which meant, along with X7 and X8, you could play the entire mainline Mega Man X series on the second generation PlayStation system, barring any handheld or ill-conceived remakes. In addition to collecting 6 X games, there were 2 distinct selling points for this collection. One being the CD-based version of X3 being represented in this collection rather than the SNES original, making the enhanced version with remixed tunes and new video animated sequences available for a wider audience who wouldn't have the foresight to emulate this stuff, or the luck of finding a Windows version for purchase, which would have been the more widely available version at the time. And the other selling point being the aforementioned hidden game, Mega Man Battle and Chase, a racing game that was only previously available in Japan and Europe and included as a bonus game of sorts. Now, all the games included in this collection have already been given video treatments previously, so I won't retread old territory here. For the most part, Mega Man X Collection did a fine job of porting these games from their original formats to this new format. And yes, I said ports, because unlike the recent Legacy collections, which are basically glorified emulators with some mild tweaks here and there, Mega Man X Collection are actually ported over from their original SNES and PlayStation formats onto this newer one, similar to the Rockman Complete Works series, but not quite as drastic. This is immediately evident when you play X1 and X2, as the ports of these 2 games are no longer bogged down by belts of slowdown that afflicted the SNES originals, and allowed these games to be experienced as they were intended, which makes the Crystal Weapon thing in X2 actually unique in its ability to slow down time, and actually it still kinda sucks, but you can't fix everything, I suppose. X1 and X2 also have looping music tracks, wherein after playing a couple of minutes worth of music, they'll loop the track again, much like the PlayStation entries or any PlayStation game where they use the CD tracks for music. It's a minor thing because most tracks don't have intro bits, but some tracks you do notice this, and it's jarring. The lack of slowdown is also evident in X5, where you're playing the first half of Dark Dizzy's level. This used to chug in the original version, and even in the Legacy Collection release, the segment was bogged down by slowdown, but they actually fixed that in Mega Man X Collection because there were things that actually needed fixing, and none of it involved names, which means yes, Izzy Glow and Duff McWoyland are still a thing in this here collection, and the world is better off for it. And if you disagree, you'd rather have the original Japanese names, well, you're entitled to your opinion, but you're also entitled to go fuck yourselves as far as I'm concerned. But that's another story. Coincidentally, the game speed option in X5 and X6 have also been removed, which means no slowdown whether intended or not, which might make that Squid Adler stage a bit of a pain here. There are some other minor changes here and there, some minor changes in dialogue, but nothing you won't notice unless you're extremely well versed in the script. A universal save system in which each game has up to 3 slots for you to save your progress. This includes the 3 16-bit games, which originally used passwords, and you can still use passwords in these games if you want, which is nice. This universal save system and its 3 saves is a step down for X5 and X6, which originally allowed up to 8 save slots. And while we're on the subject of X6, Mega Man X Collection does retain the Shotaro tunes, which haven't aged well, but whatever, your mileage may vary on that count. So you kept the old names and the old songs, however the Japanese voice dubs that were left in the original PS1 release have been removed from the collection, and there doesn't seem to be a way to restore these as the options are pretty bare bones. The vocals in X4 have been retained however, so that's something I guess.
Motivation in life. Now go. Destroy him. That's an order. But
now, if I could digress here, I do recall there being an interesting story behind this collection because they were going to do a total remastering or something, give it new vocal tracks, new remixed music and whatnot, but the mighty number Inaf King himself, Keiji Inafune, in his infinite wisdom, said no. Because anything new added to this collection would take away from his glorious plan to remake all the old X games onto the PSP, where he'd want to save all the good stuff. So Mega Man X Collection shipped as is, while Maverick Hunter X, the first supposed game of this presumed series bombed, and thus no further remakes were made. And then people wonder why Mighty Number 9 shat the bed. Still, even if the final intent of a fully remastered collection of games wasn't realized, the fact that they made the effort to port the games is much appreciated, allowing these older titles to take advantage of newer hardware with reduced slowdown, graphical clipping, and rather speedy load times for the CD games. These changes made the collection the definitive way of playing these games due to their optimized nature, and even playing this years later, I was surprised by how much smoother the experience was compared to the older games, especially at points that I never noticed was a struggle because it's something you'd get used to. That having been said, Mega Man X Collection is not a perfect port. There are some audio abnormalities as far as the mixing goes, with some sound effects being louder than the music in the background, and then there's the rare bits like the X2 intro going off script. With the slowdown removed, the attract sequence plays out faster than the music, and so the whole thing is off sync to the point where the song is cut off before the conclusion of the sequence. It's a common thing you experience when playing older DOS games on newer hardware, so it didn't really bother me that much. And I'd imagine it wouldn't bother anybody else because they would be too preoccupied with this. Well, hey now, at least you know Mega Man X2 is packed with power. So, yeah, that's all I got. For the time, Mega Man X Collection was a nice, convenient little way of playing all the old Mega Man X games without having to hunt for overpriced carts or discs, because even back then, loose copies of Mega Man X2 and X3 were not cheap. Could it have been a better collection had all those perceived remastering features been included? Perhaps, but only if they were optional features you could enable or disable on a whim, similar to how the Rockman Complete Works or Mega Man Anniversary Collection gave you the option of playing the games in or as close to the original format, or in an enhanced Navi edition with extra bits. Having the CD version of X3 on here was a great way for most players to experience that version, but I also would have liked the option to play some variation of the SNES original, since the music in that version is, well, a whole lot better, quite frankly. Regardless, Mega Man X Collection is a pretty solid collection that might not be the most convenient or even complete way of experiencing the series, and there's a number of minor issues that keep the collection from being pitch perfect, but its minor enhancements and optimizations make it worthwhile to experience these games without the limitations that held them back. And the bonus game is worth sampling once, even if it isn't all that great. So if you got a PS2 or a GameCube lying around, this might be a good sampler of a classic series, but otherwise, the currently available Mega Man X Legacy collections will more than suffice.